Boundaries, next level. So by this point, we've got value placed on our boundary, which means that we've played some games going on and off. There's a clear distinction of what is a boundary and what isn't a boundary. By now, we're starting to see our dog choose the boundary, and we can do that by positioning the actual mat in place where they have to get on it. We can do things like feed the mat and the mouse game. Now what we're looking for is duration. And so we're familiar with food fiddling by now. So again, that's where we're taking the food and literally fiddling with it in our hands. So we're building up some duration, and duration is really key, as we see, for focus, for self-control, yeah. But now what I want is that my proximity isn't dependent on her staying on the mat. So what that means is if I move out of her way, that isn't an invitation for her to come off of the mat. So one of the key things that I often see happen, which I've done myself, is I've released with me moving. So if you've done that already, work back to your release word. So again, for me, my release word, I have many, but in this case, it's, well, I'll say it in a moment. When I say that release word, I don't want to pair it with my movement. So I want my movement to be totally independent to her staying on here. And what actually releases her is the word. And in this case, I'm reinforcing it with the treat. So pay attention to where my body stays, not where it goes. Ready? Off. And she goes back on the mat. Great job. So again, I want this to remain steady. So if you find that your dog is coming with you when you move, you're going to start small. When it looks like this, I'm going to drop a treat down and step away. If they've stayed on the mat, I'm going to drop a treat down again. And when I drop that treat, notice her nose is down, then I move. Then I come back into her space. And I'm increasing it. If I have a dog who immediately comes off, then I make just a tiny little movement. So nose comes down, I take a little movement, and I step back in. So my movement is not dependent on her duration. And that's a really fun game to play in more intense environments. So for example, if you do this in a high traffic area, like at a shopping mall, and you've got your dog on a boundary, this would be the time that you're working duration. Your dog might not be as willing to stay on the boundary, and so you're going to be working your way up to it. And you start small. So treat goes down, I step away, I come back in. The second thing that we want to do is advance our duration is catching moments of relaxation. So for example, let's say you work at home, and instead of just having your dog lounge about, you're going to put them on a boundary, because now that's their job. They actually have a job in the day to be on the boundary. But you're going to do something that's called reward nothing. And it requires just a slight bit of attention from you. It means that out of the corner of your eye, you notice when your dog has settled. And that might be a down position or a more relaxed position on the mat. And you very subtly drop a treat down. So that's, working away, and then suddenly you see that they've dropped down into a nice position, calmly placing a treat down. And then last is the leveling up our boundary, is how we deliver a treat will either activate our dog or bring their energy level down. And that really matters on the boundary. So Myrtle really likes to do catch. It gets her pretty excited, which looks like that. Whoops. Let's try it again. Right. So you can see it's an active movement. However, if I drop it down or place it down slowly, that changes her energy. So if I am rapid fire, dropping, that's fine, but realize I'm going to be exciting her versus a nice slow delivery. Brings her into a lower arousal. Okay, that's it.